Welcome to another coffee break here on my channel Firm Learning, the place where I want to help you to become successful in the first years of your career. Today I'm invited by the consulting firm Struktur Management Partner. I will meet Jan, a partner of this firm. They prepared a great set here for us today in Cologne to talk about what it's like to work in consulting, what it takes to become successful even in the first years of your career. Trust this will be insightful if you are interested in consulting, but any other role as well. So let's get started. Thanks for taking the time, Jan. It's a pleasure to sit here with you today. Can you briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. I'm Jan. I lead our Digital Performance and Analytics Competence Center. And previously, I worked for an investment bank, for a strategy consulting firm. I founded a company, a tech startup, and led it to almost 50 employees. And I had different CXO roles at various companies.
Sounds like a rich experience indeed. We decided to focus today's conversation on the topic of leadership. Leadership is for sure a big term. Many people think you need to be a partner of a consulting firm to be able to show leadership or work in a senior executive role. Today we want to focus on how even you in the first years of your career in consulting or in corporate roles, of course, as well, how you can exhibit leadership. And we will structure this along three main topics: client leadership, team leadership, and knowledge leadership. And we will later also have the option to talk to two other consultants of SMP, a senior consultant and a project lead. So looking forward to that. Let's start with the topic of clients leadership. Are there any tips that you can share in this regard?
Sure. I think first of all, never start a project without a clear and aligned project definition. If you don't align on these key aspects with your client beforehand, you might run into misunderstandings, then inefficiencies in the project, and in the end, in disappointments, both on the client but also on the team side. And so I always suggest to really discuss fundamental aspects like what's the actual objective of a project, what's the scope, what are the tasks and deliverables of the consulting firms. Really write things down and make it explicit that everyone is aligned on these.
That very much resonates with my experience as well. I've seen so many projects go south because different clients had different understandings of what the project was about, what the most important things are. Even internally, this can sometimes be a nightmare if you have different partners on the team who have a different understanding of what the project is really all about. But how exactly do you do this? Have you any tips on that, how you can actually make this work?
If you have a large board of directors, for example, at the client side, so I would suggest to start interviews with each of them individually and align with a structured questionnaire on the key aspects of the project. Bring them together and analyze where might be differences, discuss these bilaterally, and then go into the kick-off meeting when you have everything aligned.
So clear understanding, make it also visible if there are these gaps. And then in the end, the concise summary, a written document where you summarize this.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Struktur Management Partner is hiring a significant number of new consultants across positions and locations in Germany. If this is something that is of interest to you as well, feel free to directly reach out to Jan. We will put the link to his LinkedIn profile in the video description. You can ask him questions on LinkedIn or also directly send him your CV if you want to apply. Jan will then share more information with you. Can you share a little bit more about what the typical project at Struktur Management Partner looks like?
Sure. We're one of the leading consulting firms in German Mittelstand for topics such as turnaround, transformation, and value creation. And German Mittelstand for us means companies with a turnover between 50 million and 2 billion.
And why should someone apply to Struktur Management Partner?
There are, from my point of view, basically three reasons. First is impact. So you need to be effective in a turnaround situation. You can't just produce slides. Second is purpose. So we help struggling companies in German Mittelstand, so in the backbone of the German economy. So it's very fulfilling. And the third one is that you have from the first day on, you have exposure to CXOs, to private equity investors, to company owners, which is very good for a steep learning curve.
Makes sense. And I can only share that after I announced that I'm doing this collaboration with Struktur Management Partner, I got lots of positive feedback also from the community. If you're interested to learn more about this, feel free to directly reach out to Jan via LinkedIn. Link to his LinkedIn profile in the video description. German language skills are a requirement to work at Struktur Management Partner. You can directly send your CV to Jan and then learn more about the process. The next topic we want to talk about is team leadership. How can you lead your own internal team and how can you contribute to that even as a junior colleague? Any tips that you can share in this regard?
Yeah, indeed, that's one of the most important aspects. And I would suggest to really look at the strengths of each team member and then staff your team pretty wisely. And as we all know, top management consulting cases can be very differently. So from market analysis to transformation projects or restructuring cases. And the skills you need in each of these project types to be successful can be very different. So market analysis would be a lot of number crunching. Restructuring would be focused very much on corporate finance, and transformation would be focused probably on change management and communication. And we all know not everyone can be perfect in everything. And so as a project lead, you need to understand beforehand what are the strengths, experiences of each project member, and then staff them accordingly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense from the project lead perspective. As a junior who wants to get staffed, of course, you need to understand also for yourself, how do you set yourself up for success in the choice of the projects. At the same time, you also want to learn, right? You want to maybe develop your Excel skills, even if you can't do it yet. Will there be mentors on the projects? How does this work?
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect. So you could build kind of mentoring teams when you know that someone, for example, isn't that good in Excel, but needs to learn these skills, and you have a project lead who is really experienced in this. So you can bring them both together and plan some time for really ramping this new colleague up in this regard.
Yeah. Makes sense. And this is, I think, also something that can be addressed in the team kickoff. This is at least something what we often did. I assume you work with similar processes. How does this work at SMP?
Yeah, definitely. Take your time at the beginning of a project and sit together as a team and discuss pretty frankly what are each team member's strengths, what are the experiences, and what are the expectations, and what does everyone needs or wants to learn in this project, and then to find a project structure that is optimal for this setup then.
Makes sense.
From my point of view, the project success is never determined by the performance of one single individual, but from the group itself. Therefore, it's highly important for me that we don't have any hidden agenda within the team and that we communicate directly with each other, especially when we face problems or challenges.
In a team, besides professional competences, it is also important to take into account the different working habits each team member has.
Professionals in consulting are knowledge workers, of course, in the end. So it's all about knowledge. You need to lead in this knowledge area as well. Any tips that you can share in this regard?
Yeah, extremely important point. And I think the most important thing, or one of the most important things you can learn in consulting, is structuring problems, structuring solutions. And you really need this because you are thrown into different situations, a new company, in a new market, and completely new problems, right? Every project is something new, and so really need to structure yourself, structure the topic, and then define the right hypothesis to work efficiently on the right topics.
Indeed, and in business, people use the term the VUCA world, right? Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. This is the situation that you are faced as a manager, and being able to structure the issues in a systematic way with tools such as hypothesis-based problem solving, issue trees, the MISI principle, and so on that you learn in consulting is definitely very helpful also outside of your roles in consulting. Any tips on how you can develop these types of skills?
Oh yeah. I really recommend to practice it with friends or with colleagues, and just take a topic and try to structure it, and then get challenged by your friend or your colleague, and you really find out that things like MISI sound pretty easy in the beginning, and when you try to apply it, it's really good to practice it. And I think learning curve is extremely steep in this topic in the first years of consulting.
That's exactly why it's so exciting.
Yes, definitely.
Personal branding is important. From my own experience, I've witnessed that you can have a successful career, whether you're a specialist or more an all-rounder. Moreover, along your career path, you will find and identify new fields of interest that attract your attention. I highly encourage everyone to follow one's intuition and invest in your education.
And to round this off, I prepared a special treat here for you, and this is community questions. So yesterday on Instagram, I asked the community what questions they might have for a consulting partner. And the first is the following: what makes candidates stand out in partner interviews? And for the uninitiated, partner interviews are interviews that you have usually at the end of the process with the partner of the consulting firm. Any tips that you can share in this regard?
Sure. The partner interview is all about personality and cultural fit. Whereas in the first interviews, you've proven already your analytical skills and a lot of other things. So the partner really looks, do you fit into the team? Because we all know consulting teams need to work under high time pressure, often on very challenging tasks. And so it's really important that you have a good team fit. And that's what the partner looks at.
Fully agree. The atmosphere in the team is the most important thing. And I trust this is what you will check out for. Yeah. Next question, and this is an interesting one. Is visibility more important than actual performance? And so on my channel, I talk a lot about visibility, how important it is also to be visible in an organization. Any insights you can share in this regard?
Both are important. From my experience at S&P, I would say we have a clear focus on client satisfaction and the client recommendation rate, which is at 98%. So we do everything that the client is happy. And this is priority number one. But at the same time, it's also important to help develop the firm. For example, we have an artificial intelligence task force where you can bring in your ideas. Internally, we have a recruiting team, we have different competence centers. And so I think in the end, it's a good balance between project performance and also internal visibility that makes you successful.
What makes Struktur Management Partner stand out, and why should one start a career at Struktur Management Partner? Jan, trust you have a perspective on that.
Yes, actually, we are pretty unique in the consulting world. Usually consulting is all about sales, right? We consciously choose another way and look at it from a systemic perspective. So we really focus only on client recommendation rate. So how many of our clients are happy with the work we did for them? And so this attracts different kind of people than other consulting firms. And you can see this when you look at, for example, average staff retention rate. So people are on average 4.5 years at our firm. And when you look at Kununu at the last 2 or 3 years, you see we get a score of 4.6 to 4.9 and 100% recommendation rate from employees. So this shows that we are pretty unique in this regard.
These are quite impressive numbers. Thank you. Now I'd love to hear from you. What is your thought on the topics that we discussed? I definitely learned a couple of new things as well. Feel free to ask your questions in the comments. The SMP team will monitor the comment section and come back to you. If you took any value out of this video at all, please like and subscribe to stay up to date on my content. My name is Heinrich. I release weekly videos here on the channel. Big thanks to all the members of From Learning as well. See you again next week, and bye bye.